Hi, my name is Amy Ellis, and this is Finishing Your Quilts on a Home Sewing Machine. And I am an author, blogger, quilter, fabric designer. Really, I just love to quilt, and I can't wait to share what I've learned with all of you. So we're going to talk a lot about quilting with your walking foot and also a free motion quilting foot so that you can have the designs that you are looking for in your quilts. And I'm going to show you first just some of the tools that I like to use that give me success when I'm quilting on my machine at home. So first things first, thread. And I have three that I use most often. Superior thread, so fine. It's a polyester thread and it's 50 weight, so it's nice and fine. The bigger the number, the smaller the thread when you pull it out. This one is Aerofill by Madeira. It's also polyester and it's a 40 weight. A lot of times it just depends on the color that I'm looking for. And it's, another good polyester thread. Finally, we have here the Aerofill 50 weight, and this one is a cotton thread and also comes in a huge variety of colors. And I brought this box just to give you an idea. This is the Madeira threads, but there's tons of options in thread. And I'll show you more about matching the colors in a little while, but don't be afraid to pull from your rainbow of thread and have fun with your quilting. So let's look at some more tools. Safety pins. You can also use spray based when you're basting your quilts, but I like how reusable the safety pins are, and I don't close them because then I have to open them once again when I'm trying to baste a quilt. So like you saw here, if you just pull a few out, you can get them to fall apart easily and then use them. So as I'm basting, I'll show you more, but it's a good like 2-inch pin, I think, and it comes in handy for quilting or for basting your quilts. And I just keep them in a container so that I always know where they are and hopefully don't get poked by them. So there's that. I always keep scissors handy. These are nice and sharp. This one is great with the curved edge because you can get close to your quilt top and clip the thread without clipping your actual quilt, which can sometimes be a problem if you have sharp snips. So that's something to look for. Next we have the walking foot, and this probably looks a little different. It's bigger than most of the feet for your sewing machine. It's great for quilting because you have multiple layers of fabric and batting, and the feet on this foot here at the top will move the layers evenly with the bottom. So it's like having an extra set of feed dogs on your machine. And I'll show you how to attach it in a little bit here. There's also this guide bar that comes with most walking feet. If yours doesn't have one, maybe check your accessory bag again because sometimes it gets lost when you don't realize what it's for. But you can space it, so you can measure from the needle out however much space you want between your quilting, and then use that for getting your lines nice and straight. The other feet we'll be using are the free motion feet, and these all have different purposes. This one has the open toe so that you don't get your thread stuck. This one is a small circle, and then this one you can radiate around, so it's good for echo quilting. And you can see there's little lines. It's kind of hard to see because it's clear, but there's little lines inside there where you can measure from your quilting. So those are all. This one's my favorite though, the open toe. It's just easiest to see around, and it works well most of the time. So there's always the need for a seam ripper. There's always a mistake. So this one's handy. It has this like eraser to collect and catch threads. So it's nice and really efficient. Then we have some marking tools. This is a hair marker. It's by Clover. And you'll use it with a ruler. This one's one of my favorites. It's just small and handy, but you'll run your marker along the side, much like you would with a pen. This is water soluble, but you'll get a crease in your fabric so that you can follow that line when you're quilting. Let's see, needles. I like to use a top stitching needle. This is 9014. The top stitching needle has a larger eye, so the thread can move through easily and quickly as you're quilting. And it also has a sharper point, so it goes through the layers easily. And then we have painter's tape. This comes in a variety of widths, as you can see, and there's even more, so be creative if you want something different. It does lose its stickiness over time, and so I brought a new one just to make sure that you guys remember to get a new one. If you haven't used your painter's tape in a while, I pulled this one out and found that I was having to really stick it onto my quilt top. So a new roll is always handy when you haven't used it in a while. And finally, I have this handy case. It's actually a medicine bottle, but I put all of my used needles, broken needles, bent pens, all the little sharp things that tend to accumulate that you don't need anymore, but don't want to have laying around in your sewing space, or just even tossed in the trash. I feel like it could poke through a bag or hurt somebody else if they're taking out the trash for me. So that's just my handy tip. We're going to now get our machine set up so that you can get started quilting. And there's a few things I like to do every time I get started with a new project, and I'm going to walk you through that. So the first thing I like to do is clean out the sewing machine. And so I'm going to show you exactly how I do that. Take off this accessory tray, and your machine probably looks a little different, and that's okay. The basics will be the same, and underneath will look similar. It's just how you take it apart is going to be a little different. This part just pops off, and then I have this little screwdriver, and I'm just going to take out these two. Actually, I'm going to drop this foot so I don't bump it. I'm going to take these two screws out, and then I can clean out underneath really well. So it just takes a minute, and it's awkward because it's kind of tight, but I promise you it's worth it. So take a seat so I can see. And what I'm doing, I need to clean out underneath, because no matter what you're piecing or quilting, there's always a little bit of lint buildup, and it can cause havoc with your quilting stitches, especially because you are working with extra layers. So it's a great habit to be in when you're quilting on your home sewing machine. So immediately when I take that off, I can already see quite a bit of lint built up in there, and I'm going to go ahead and take out my bobbin and the bobbin case. And you can see this machine hasn't been cleaned in a while, and I'm glad, because then I can show you exactly what's going on underneath and where to clean. So I'm going to start here in the bobbin case and just kind of collect all this good stuff. It just will, if you're ever skipping stitches or have some funny tension problems going on, a lot of times this is the culprit. So it's something you need to be comfortable with, especially when you are quilting, because that batting layer really does add a lot of lint. Whether you like it or not, it does. I try to clean, if I'm working on a large project, I'll clean it out before I start each day. If it's something smaller, I usually just once will be enough, but it's just something that has to happen. Just good housekeeping habits for your machine, and it'll keep it happy and running longer, and you happy and sewing longer. So yeah, I'm just cleaning all this stuff out. This is my thread cutter right here, and there's a few little bits. So just try and clean that out as much as possible. There's a lot of people will use canned air. That's not necessarily a good idea, especially with these nice computerized machines. It can blow lint up into your all the computerized, the boards and whatnot, and you don't want that because that would be a costly repair. So I think we're about good here. And you just want to use your little brush to clean up as much of the lint as you can get out. And this does not replace your annual visit to, the repair shop to have it serviced. They will oil it for you. Most of our modern machines don't need oiling on a regular basis, but you can see that's quite the collection of lint. So definitely something to do on a regular basis. Before I put this bobbin case back in, I'm going to clean it out too and just make sure that there's all the extra lint that's in and around is cleaned up. So this little fuzzy piece is so that your thread runs over it smoothly without getting caught. So it stays. And when we put this back together, I'll show you closely. There's a dot right here, a little arrow, and there's a little dot here on the machine itself, and those need to match when you put it back in so that your bobbin case is properly installed in the machine. So make sure that you have those matching up. I've cleaned a number of machines and they all have the same markings, so look for that on yours. And then we get to put it back together. So a lot of times there's a little spring underneath there to make sure that it comes off easily. So just get those screws in and then we'll tighten them back up. So it's not too bad. It just takes a couple of minutes, but it makes a big difference when you're quilting. And we'll have your stitches nice and even, and your machine will just be humming along with you. So lots of stitching. Quilting can be a little bit harder on your machine than just regular piecing, and that's why I take that time to do that. So this one slides back in, and then I'm gonna pop off that cover to put the bobbin in. All right, so got that done. Now we're gonna install the walking foot. And for that, we need to take off this foot piece. I'm also going to switch out the needle real fast right now. This little bar where you attach the needles called the needle clamp, and that's helpful for when you install your walking foot, just so that you know right where it's at. So my needle with the flat to the back, I'm going to stick that up and get it nice and tight. Especially when you're quilting with your walking foot, it can get a little more vibrations for the sewing machine, so you want to make sure that it's really tight in there. And then the walking foot, we have this bar goes over the needle clamp, and then it screws in place here. So it can be a little tricky, but if you raise that bar up and get it over the needle bar or the needle clamp first, it's helpful. I'm going to just open this up a little bit more so there's room for my foot to slide in there. So get that on the clamp, and then it all fits into place. It takes a couple of tries to get it right, so if you're frustrated trying to put your foot on, just step back for a minute and look at it again and make sure that you have everything lining up properly, and then have it at it again. So again, you want to get this nice and tight because there are a lot of vibrations when you're quilting with the walking foot. So that's ready to go. We're just going to thread the machine and then we're ready to start quilting. So this one threads itself. It's really nice. Before we move on to the next lesson, I need you to go through your machine and clean it out like I've just shown you, and get it all just nice and tidy, cleaned up, no lint underneath. And then also make a practice quilt sandwich. So we need about 18 inches of fabric for two sides, and then also a piece of batting in between. And then I'll show you how to baste them and get them ready in the next lesson.